Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. Today I wanted to talk about charting. So obviously the two most important things that you should be charting are your basal body temperature and your cervical fluid. And there's the optional cervical position, but I do not chart that and I'm fine with that. It's just another option for you beyond those two. But today I wanted to talk about charting things beyond those two fertility signs and why I chart them and why I think you should chart them. And I think you should chart these things not because it's going to make your chart more accurate or help you get a better picture into your fertility. It's very separate from using charting as birth control. It's much more of a way to give you insight into your body and kind of what's going on and make the connection between your cycle and your body. One of the reasons that I love the app Kindara, and this is not sponsored, I just actually really like that app. That is my app of choice. Kindara, if you want to sponsor a video, hit me up. But I like the app Kindara for my actual charting. I don't use a paper chart. I don't use an app that tells me when I'm fertile or not. I use Kindara because it's basically all of the goodness of a paper chart in an app because it is so customizable and it requires you to put your information in and to choose when your peak day is, when your new period is, where your cover line goes and all that. I like how easy it is to control, and the thing that I love so much about it is how you can add custom data beyond just charting your fluid and your temperature. I will explain, let me open it up so I can explain. So if you go into your Kindara app, if you have it, and if you have the app already, then you probably understand how to do this. If not, here you go. So if you're under your data tab, you go under menstruation, there is the custom data, and that's where you'll see ovulation tests, pregnancy tests. I don't know if there are any other preset ones because I've added so many, but if you click the little gear on that bar, it'll take you into where you can reorder what you have. You can add different things. So I've gone through and I've added a bunch of things that I want to chart beyond just my temperature, my fluid. And I also put a little emoji with them because then on your chart, it shows that emoji instead of a check marker. I don't know what it would be instead. I'm going to tell you about the things that I chart and why I like charting them and how I chart them. And then I'm going to talk about some other things you could chart as well depending on what it is you're looking to learn about yourself. So the first thing that I chart, not on my Kindara app actually, but just on my actual paper calendar that I use for work, is the lunar cycle, and not where it is at every single day. I simply just make note of when the new moon is and the full moon is. I really like to journal on the new moon, not always, but there's something about the new moon that is great for setting intentions and asking the universe for things and manifesting. If you're into that sort of stuff, I like the new moon is kind of where that starts for me. And I also think it's really interesting to look how your cycle compares to the moon, whether you are ovulating with the full moon or the new moon, and whether you're starting your periods around the new moon or the full moon. And I've talked about that before, so I'm not going to get into today, but it's just lunar cycle and your menstrual cycle is something that I like to compare. I just think it's really interesting. And I just like the moon a lot. I'm a weirdo like that. The next thing on my list that I like to chart is how I'm sleeping. Whether I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, I'm getting less, whether I have a bit of insomnia and have trouble falling asleep. I think that's really important to look at how I am sleeping, and that's not always necessarily because of where I'm at my menstrual cycle, but you can see whether you sleep better during different phases. I've realized that how well I sleep and can fall asleep and stay asleep is almost directly related to what I do in the hour or two before bed. If I'm spending time, watching movies, Netflix, on my phone, looking at social media, and then I shut that all off and immediately think I'm gonna go right to bed, that's when I have trouble sleeping. But sleep is just something that I think it's important to track. The next thing is mood, whether I'm happy or sad or irritable or blue, those sort of things. I think it's really interesting to see what you lean towards at different points in your cycle. The next thing is whether I'm energetic or groggy that day. This one I have found that I am groggy at the end of my cycle and the beginning of the cycle. So leading up to and during my period, and then I have a lot of energy coming out of my period and around ovulation. The next thing is acne, whether I'm breaking out or have zits or whatever it is. I feel like your period gets such a negative rap, and there's all these awful things that come along with having a period, and woe is me. And I always thought that acne was one of those things that I broke out leading up to my period or on my period because that's what everyone said. But I have found out that I actually break out more around ovulation and have really good skin during my period. From tracking and charting and keeping track of that, I have come to realize that, my period makes for good skin. Another thing is cramps, and there are a lot of other, like acne, PMS related things you could track. Am I getting them leading up to my period, the first day of my period, my whole period, or like a long time? Going along with cramps, another thing that I like to track is Mittelschmerz. So Mittelschmerz is a cramp-like pain that you get around ovulation. It is not like a solid indicator of ovulation, so you shouldn't rely on it, but it's just like one of those fun added extra things that I like to track, and I don't always experience it. I don't always notice it, but when I do, I put it down in my chart, and it is always around ovulation. One thing I have in my chart, but I don't always chart, is bloating, and that's because I don't always experience it. And the final thing that I have on here is travel, whether I'm traveling or not, and I mark down whether basically if I'm not staying at my home. And the reason I do this is because I have found that long international trips can throw my cycle out of whack to the point where my luteal phase will get thrown off, and I'll have a shorter luteal phase and more premenstrual spotting. It has been really good for me to kind of recognize that there are these things that impact my cycle, and if something goes wrong or is like a little odd, I can go back and look at like what might have caused it, and usually travel or like some sort of stress related thing is the cause of it. Okay, so some other things you could add to your chart, and this top one I kind of want to, whether you are focused or distracted, productive or unproductive. I think it's very interesting how definitely like leading up to and the first part of my period, I am very like, let me chill, let me veg. I'm not really gonna go above and beyond for work. I'll get what I have to get done, but don't ask more of me. And then at the end of my period, leading into like ovulation in that time frame, I am so like jazzed and energized and motivated and productive. And I think that's just a really interesting thing to keep track of. If I find that I have started getting, more unfocused and unproductive cycle round, that there's something bigger going on than just my cycle. If you experience things like back pain, breast tenderness, headaches or migraines, muscle pain, if you have any sort of anxiety, feeling very emotional or tearful at certain points, or you're not quite sure if it's because of your cycle or if it's because of something else, I think that's a good thing to track to see if there's any correlation between that and your menstrual cycle. If you urinate more at certain points, things like constipation and diarrhea, how regular you are, those are a few like TMI but good ones. Dizziness, libido, and finally something that's kind of like travel, exercise. I don't feel like I exercise regularly enough or vigorously enough for it to make that much of an impact, but exercise is a big part of like your days and what you do. I think that's something worthwhile to track, because sometimes like travel and like stress, that can mess with your cycle. Now, like I said before, you don't have to track any of these things to use FAM as birth control, but I think this is such an easy next step for those of you out there who already chart and kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into your cycles and like the connection between your cycle and your body and kind of what's going on in the world. I guarantee that you will either learn something you didn't know about yourself or your cycle, or you will be able to confirm something that you had like a sneaking suspicion about. Like I said, I chart in my phone. It's just the easiest for me with travel and everything. It's just nice to have it all in here, and I can just go and input my data and anything else. There's some people that prefer using paper charts or paper charts on top of an app, and I recently made like a paper chart for like actually just an Instagram post, and people really wanted for me to share that, so I made one that was shareable, and I'm gonna figure out how to put a link in the description box so you can go there and you can get it. In the document, it is just one document, but it has 3 charts on it. The first one is a Fahrenheit chart, next one is Celsius, and the final one is a blank one, because there are so many people out there that they want to use a paper chart, but the temperatures on that chart don't match up to what exactly they are seeing in their chart, and so this one's a bit more customizable. So I'm curious, for those who chart out there, or maybe don't chart, do you chart things beyond your temperature and fluid? Share those with me down below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to FemmeHead for more of me, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!